Hey guys, it's Sean here, and today I wanted to bring you the PoB update for the Queen of the Forest, Deadeye. The PoB is finally in a state that I'm comfortable releasing it, as local identity has made a number of fixes. There's still some things to be worked on, bug fixes, which I've tried to compensate with manual edits to some of the items, which I'll go over, but as of now, it's in a functional state, and I wanted to get this out, as I know a lot of people have been asking for it. So, for those new to PoB, you are able to change the skill tree, the items, and the skills all at once in this top right corner with the loadout function. I have put together a very budget version of the build, an in-game kind of the standard version that you're seeking out. This very similar build than the one I showcased in my last video. And then I have just a purely for fun, aspirational, perfect min-maxed what it would look like if you got perfect stats in every slot to just showcase really the ultimate peak power of Queen of the Forest. And then because bossing is kind of its own setup, I put my own in-game bossing version of the Heroic Tragedy setup here so that you can kind of see what changes and why. So I'll just start going through the budget tree. With the budget tree, we do not go over to get Mind Over Matter, because on a budget, stacking max mana on all your items is kind of expensive, and you can get a lot more value from nodes on the tree, and you don't rely as heavily on jewel sockets, because when you path all the way over here, kind of a lot of your power is from getting really good jewels, and on a budget version, you're probably not getting really good quiver jewels. And so you kind of take the same path, evasion, kind of your standard evasion setup, but you're kind of getting a lot more damage nodes. I did add in some freeze build up, some freeze over there, to kind of use that cold damage that we have. On the budget version, I would use an Essence of the Mountain if you're having trouble freezing. If not, you can swap over to the kind of Herald setup. So taking these area of effect and then anointing Doomsayer. But on a budget version, you might be having trouble freezing. So I did take this Essence of the Mountain, which gives all your lightning damage, turns it into 5% extra cold, which will help you freeze. So as you can see, just using an evasion, attack speed, attack damage, jewel, kind of in every slot, you're getting, a little over 100% move speed. That is not after dodge rolling. If you check dodge rolling, it kind of goes up to 113. But this is pretty good for not really having the budget to min-max. So that's the tree. In terms of the skills, that's pretty standard. I'm not going to go through that, but I did put a 5 link on kind of every slot here. So you do just have 5 linked skills just to kind of showcase what it looks like. That's what 82k tooltip on Lightning Arrow. But I'll spend some time going through the items and the cuts you can make. I mean, the big cut you make is on jewels. If you do not get a quiver bonus jewel, that reduces the price it costs by a ton. I was looking earlier, you can get some evasion, attack speed, attack damage, or some variation of that for under 50x a piece. If you add quiver bonus to any of the jewels, you're gonna run over a div easily for every jewel. So that's really the first thing, is you can cut on budget there. The next big thing is not going ingenuity. Just running a rare belt, not running ingenuity is it cuts a lot from the cost, as well as not going that Heroic Tragedy jewel. So you still want to stack evasion on your rings. You still kind of want to get evasion everywhere else. I am running a Queen of the Forest with this the standard non-corrupted 500 evasion rating move speed there, just to showcase you can still get over 100% with just a basic queen. Basic hand. Again, just use whatever runes you need now that you can change runes. It's actually really nice, so you can just mix and match reses in your runes. quiver is kind of a basic, not using a +2 quiver. And then the budget build, you can probably get a better widow hail than this, but this is just a 200% 2-socket widow hail. This is less than an exalt, so you could probably get a better one. But just kind of showcasing the power of the build is still good with a pretty basic widow hail. Now on to the in-game version. So the in-game version of the build is what I showcased in the video, kind of going through all the stats. You want a widow hail with the additional arrow is kind of up to you. I didn't go additional arrow. I went 3 sockets for that 90% elemental attacks. You can also go a corruption above 250%. Any of these will be good for you. The in-game quiver, this is kind of the same quiver I was showcasing in my gameplay video. Exact same quiver. Quiver is most of your damage, so after the queen and some of the other things, quiver is your priority damage upgrade. Again, armor is just basic, high evasion base. You can get int on helm, that's a nice to have, you don't necessarily need it. And then res. Queen, and this one I'm using a 400 corruption queen. I had a 395 in my video. It's a pretty good corruption, so again, this is an in-game guide, but target that. This is a basic Hand of Wisdom in action, so you could actually probably get a corruption better on that one now that they've kind of fallen in price. Again, you want really good res, and then mana on boots. I guess I skipped over this. You want mana on helm as well, and you want mana on rings. But the most important thing, and I get asked this a lot, is why is my evasion low? And most of the time it's because you do not have a breach ring with evasion on it. A 50% catalyst defense breach ring with a T1 evasion roll is worth more than most armor that you have on the build because of how Ingenuity is sort of scaling that. So again, breach rings are very important. I did in the notes section put the stats a priority on your breach rings. So that's kind of your priority there. Ingenuity, and then, obviously unique flasks when you can get them. They're good for every build. And then this is just your basic 3-prop quiver, evasion, attack speed. You want quiver bonus and evasion first, and then attack speed is always nice to have, but really quiver bonus and evasion is kind of what you're targeting. This is the Against the Darkness I was going. It's the cold damage and intelligence. You can play around with different ones, but I think this one's the best. And then the Heroic Tragedy. So let's go back to the tree and then we'll talk about Heroic Tragedy. So this is the tree, kind of same tree that I had in my max roll guide. I did take this non-lucky lightning. I took a couple extra evasion nodes. I removed some jewel sockets. Removed a jewel socket there, removed a jewel socket there to get those points. And then I path all the way over to Mind Over Matter. I will say, Heroic Tragedy does not work currently in PoB. So you have to manually edit it. So currently, this build with the gear set I put together, it has 698 int. So on my Heroic Tragedy, I added in the mana that it's reduced. So that's 2 mana for every int. So I removed 1396 mana, and then I added on 349% increased evasion. So if you're to make your own PoB with your own gear and want to use a Heroic Tragedy, you need to go over to your item section, double click on your Heroic Tragedy when you add it in, hit edit, and then you can just add these lines to the bottom of your Heroic Tragedy. So add in whatever your intelligence is times 2, minus that to mana, and then your intelligence divided by 2% increased evasion. And so that's how you get the Heroic Tragedy to work on PoB. So that is the in-game kind of PoB with all the build kind of put together that you can see with the skills, as well as the movement speed, EHP over 16k. That's actually pretty good because you've got that 95% evasion chance. Capped res over 200% move speed, 200k kind of tooltip. if you're having life cost issues, so with this build, I am going cannibalism, which means every monster you kill, you're getting life back, and then also herbalism, which gives you life recovery on your flask. If you're having life problems, you can go bow shot over lightning arrow. So literally just swap out lightning arrow for bow shot, take out life tap, put in any other support you want. It's not going to feel as great, but it's going to actually be more tooltip damage. And if you're going the proper herald setup, that's your clear anyway. So go bow shot if you don't like the life cost. Again, on costs, the amulet this is kind of a 50 spirit amulet. This is if you want to add in herbalism. If you don't want to add in herbalism, which is entirely unnecessary, you can just do a 35 spirit amulet. So anything above 35 spirit there will get you the spirit needed. That's the only place you need spirit on your gear, is that lapis amulet. Again, I get a lot of questions about bossing. I will likely showcase hopefully in the future. I'm working on a different build right now, but hopefully I will just quickly put together a budget version of this build, maybe even cheaper than this, to try to showcase what bossing looks like. But if you're playing the build already, you kind of already know what it looks like. In-game bossing, you just swap out your rings for Thief's Torment. I did go ahead and note in the skills, you remove your heralds, because heralds do nothing on bosses, and then you add in Cast on Shock. During a map, you can keep Thief's Torment in your inventory, you go to a boss room. If you don't have the damage with just, the Lightning Rod Orb of Storms normal setup, you can swap on Cast on Shock. This Uber boss setup, you actually want to take out some of the supports from Lightning Arrow. So take out Martial Tempo and Primal Armament from Lightning Arrow, put it into Lightning Rod. That'll be your bossing setup. This is just a rough estimate of bossing, about 5.7 million damage. It says with 100 Lightning Rods proccing. You have max 20 active at a time, but they're pulsating kind of constantly. It's really tough to estimate the damage. It's anywhere between 2 and 10 million, kind of depending on how you're proccing things. So yeah, that's the in-game bossing setup. And then finally, just for fun, what would the build look like if you perfected every single slot and got a level 100 character? And so with this setup, this is totally just kind of what's the build capable of. You can get 310% move speed. I will say almost all of this gear is completely unattainable. This is actually attainable. This is a mirror quiver, which does exist. So if you have a mirror, you can get the quiver. None of this other gear. This is all just normal gear. Double crux, kind of perfect helm, perfect. It's all, completely just for PoB's sake, but just wanted to showcase kind of what perfect gear in every single slot would look like. And that kind of gives you that 310 move speed. So in an ideal world, that would be great if you could just edit your own gear to get 310 move speed, but likely something around 200, call it 180 to 220 is likely what your attainable goals is going to be for the character. And with that, I think I'm pretty much done with the PoB. I've got a couple notes here, just kind of some frequently asked questions. I'll obviously answer more questions and comments from the video. I'll post the max roll and PoB links in the description below. Well, I think that's kind of wrap it up. So thank you so much for watching. I'll keep releasing more content if you guys enjoy it. Thanks, and have a good one, guys.